Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff, Mosher, and Adam Caplan for Inside the Birds. Don't worry, everyone. Geoff and Adam, we're still here. Everybody else might be going, but we are still here to talk about the Eagles, Adam. And I couldn't help but think as we get into this free agency, this crazy day, I'm sure you've seen the meme on social media. It's old now, of John Travolta from Pulp Fiction, where he walks into a room and it's empty and he's looking around. Like, that's how Zach Baun must feel among the Eagles free agents. He's the only one that got paid by the Eagles. And then when it all started and free agency is underway, legal tampering has begun. Contracts have been agreed to, in parentheses, and will be eventually on Wednesday be official. But a lot of guys flew the coop, Adam. We'll get into that. But the Eagles weren't completely dormant. They made a very interesting trade, sending Kenny Pickett and a draft pick to the Browns to get in return a draft pick and a quarterback, Dorian DTR. We'll call him DTR. It's Thompson Robinson, right?
Yes, Dorian Thompson Robinson. I don't know why I wrote Donovan. So we'll get into that. We've got a great scouting report from Brown sources on that, but we'll give you our intel on kind of what happened. And Milt Williams got the bag, man. He got even more than I thought. I knew he wanted to beat. I knew he wanted to beat. It's so funny, Aleem McNeil. Ironically, the guy the Eagles. That whole Milt Williams Aleem McNeil situation from 4 years ago was comical. They both got the bag, man. God, that's the cool thing about that situation, by the way. Lee McNeil makes over $24 million per season, and Milt Williams beats it. I'm sure that was on Milton's mind and his agency. I'm sure.
Well, and just getting $26 million for being Milton Williams. I mean, no problem.
I know it's a great story. It's such a great story of Louisiana Tech.
Yeah,
guy who's good every year. He's one of the rare non-first round pick players that we've talked about in our 8 years of, or any second day or third day pick that's been good since the day he was drafted. Like he's never not been good. That's the crazy thing.
Right
now, will we live up to it? We'll get into that when we talk about some of the guys who left. But yeah, it was on Monday was the agreement day. Nobody could sign, and then the comical thing is there were a couple of premature reports. One on Darius Slay. But the big one was kind of funny. Jason Light, because Jason Light has a Twitter account or X account now, and there was a report that was not true on of all players, Samaje Perine. But the money, as soon as I saw him, like, wait a minute, Samaje Perine is not signing anywhere for $7 million a year. I was like, what? And then Jason jumped in. I don't know if he happened to see it or someone told him to shoot it down.
Yeah,
but that was an all-timer. That was an all-timer. That was kind of funny. But anyway, because as I said on our last show or the show before that, there's going to be a couple of agreements that wind up not happening. It happens every year. There have been some that were like legendary. We the one we've talked about of Adam Schefter and I have the story on Frank Gore. Everyone retweets it every year, and I tried to chime in. Mm-hmm. Well, what happened was he just told people he was going to sign there with the Eagles and Chip Kelly. In 2015, Chip loved him. I know the Eagles front office and loved him, but he changed his mind. Maybe I don't remember now. It's been 10 years. Did he hear about, other people reported out there that he got an idea of how they practice and he got cold feet. I don't know. I don't remember what the reason was, but things happen. Guys are allowed to change their mind because they didn't sign a contract. That's the point.
Right. And like you said, it could happen. It could happen in the next few days where somebody you hear about it. All right. So let's talk specifically, go inside this whole Kenny Pickett trade, because at the end of the year, you and I talked when we did our sort of roster look at, we felt that there was not a chance that Pickett could be dealt, because when you have a backup who, as like Tanner McKee, who has been impressive when he's played, and is going into year 3, they knew they had to learn more, or actually they had learned. They knew they liked him. We know that they love Tanner McKee, and it's by year 3, you got to be that guy. So we felt that there was a good chance Pickett at some point could get traded. I think, me personally, I was thinking like training camp after down. But as somebody around the league put it to me, Adam, and I think that this really frames the discussion for the Browns. Someone around the league to me says, you can tell how the NFL feels about this year's quarterback draft class based on the moves that it's making in free agency. And the Browns need a quarterback, and they don't have the number 1 pick. And so Kenny Pickett moves a lot quicker than we may have anticipated.
I mean, he was traded, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, last March, and he gets traded 1 year later. I'll look at that right now. I think, yeah.
I think it was the 4th or 5th day of free agency.
March 15th of 2024. That's just crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, it is funny because on your point, whoever you spoke with, and they're right, the fact that Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson, particularly Aaron Rodgers, is like a hot commodity after the season he had with the Jets at 41 years old, turns 42 in December. That tells you where the league is at quarterback. Demand is not meeting supply. There's just not enough quarterbacks out there. They're quality. So this is what happens. And there's some teams, it's kind of like musical chairs, and the chairs are being shuffled, and someone's out of seat. Some of these teams simply just don't have a quarterback. Look at the Giants situation. It's just not good. So moving along here, you're absolutely right. It's a quarterback-driven league. If you don't have one, you're looking for one. So Kenny Pickett is gone. The Eagles actually save around $1.6 million in cash and cap. That's not why they made the trade. That had nothing to do with it. But for people like to keep track of that, that's about what's happened there. But the big thing is they're getting a 5th-round pick for a guy who would not be on the team after the season. And quite frankly, I'm not saying they would have cut him in training camp. I don't see any way that Pickett would have beaten him out. We'll never know because they've traded Pickett. But Tanner McKee is just one of these guys. I haven't brought this one up probably ever. Other people brought it up. I'm going to bring it up now. This quarterback factory that Howie Roseman talked about, that's kind of what he meant because of Nick Foles and some other quarterbacks. And who knew about Jalen Hurts when they drafted him to be the backup for Carson Wentz? That's why he was drafted. Didn't know it would work out that way. But that's what he meant, to develop quarterbacks. A.J. Feely, okay, if you really want to go back a couple decades. That's what he meant.
Yep.
Well,
commodity.
Tanner McKee is that guy. That he's the kind of guy they want to develop. And the tape has been good. The preseason tape's good. Regular season tape that's limited is good. And the other thing is, other teams know about Tanner McKee. Now that they've traded Pickett, so obviously they can't be trading Tanner McKee. But I'll be interested to see if they get any serious interest with him going forward.
Maybe, I mean, with New Orleans, I mean, they're committed to Derek Carr, but that doesn't mean they can't add another quarterback that they may think be longer. So who knows if the familiarity that their new coach Kellen Moore has with the Eagles makes them want to talk to the Eagles about Tanner McKee. Who knows? But it's very clear, and let's make no mistake here, because when the trade would happen, I saw like a small, I guess, subset of social media sort of get excited for DTR and think that that was a very significant part of the deal. No. The significant part of trading away Kenny Pickett was that Tanner McKee is their number 2 until otherwise proven not to be. The organization loves him. We know that. We've spoken to several people who love Tanner McKee. He's already proved it when he's had to play, which is not a lot, but he's proved he can run the offense that was in place and do a good job with it. And we're not saying anything more than that. He's just looked good when he's been given the chance, and he'll be the number 2 when when OTA start and training camp starts. But DTR is a guy that they did look at a lot during the draft season. What was that, 2 years or 3 years ago, Adam?
2023, yeah. Our understanding was then, I don't know if it's changed from watching his tape, but they just traded for him. So they really liked him for that 2023 draft. So he was a 5th-round pick out of UCLA. Chip Kelly coached him. Not sure, what the Eagles thought of that. It didn't really matter. The bottom line is, this is the guy that they've liked in the past. He turns 26 in November. He's on the 3rd year of his 4-year rookie deal. He basically got pressed into service when he wasn't ready, as we understand it, last year with the Browns because of the quarterback situation. He didn't look good. He wasn't ready when he played, but you don't want to hold that against him. When a guy's not ready and he gets thrown in there, sometimes it's put in a tough situation.
Sure.
He's a kid that we were told from a Brown source when he came there needed to grow up a little bit, needed to be coached hard. He was. Now the thing is, they went through a number of different play callers in his 2 years there. Kevin Stefanski, Alex Van Pelt, I think Ken Dorsey, if I'm not mistaken. So that didn't help. So he goes to a team that wants him. That's pretty. Cleveland kind of was wanted to move on, and they did, and they get an upgrade with Pickett, and they're going to need it. By the way, Browns fans, They don't have a starting quarterback. Watson very well may not be ready as he retore his Achilles tendon in training this past fall. So they've got a problem at quarterback, but they got Myles Garrett back since we've done, since we did our last couple shows. So that won't be happening with the Eagles. We don't have to talk about that anymore. But Kenny Pickett is moving on. He's now on his third NFL team.
Yep. Good luck to Kenny Pickett there. DTR at very least, what he is as your number 3 quarterback is a guy that when you got to play the Commanders twice a year, you want your scout team to have a guy who can throw and run. Yep. That's not Tanner McKee. So you put DTR there, and at very best, you have him under your roof for a year. You try to nurture his talent. He has great traits. You're just trying to develop him more as a quarterback, as a passer, as somebody who can, try to run your offense, and maybe you get something out of that. So it makes a lot of sense. And the Eagles picked up another 5th round pick, which I believe now they have 4 of them. So it gives them an extra pick. They did lose a pick when they made that trade for Jahan Dotson. They gave him a 3rd rounder. So here they've got several picks in the 5th round. Howie usually likes to package those to move up, move down, do different things. So I think the bottom line is it just gives you another shot to make a pick or at least maneuver yourselves in the draft.
Yep, they got a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. Now 4 4s. Excuse me. Let me say this again. No, 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and 4 5s. Right, 4 5s.
So let's
say that again. 4 5. Yeah, 8 overall picks. So 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and 4 fifth round picks. So there you go. The Eagles have 8 picks as of now, as we speak, on very early Tuesday morning. But I guess, look, I know some fans are like, oh my God, why didn't the Eagles do this? We warned people that it was going to be a quiet free agency in the beginning. They weren't going to do much. They didn't do anything other than the trade. That's right. Okay. Free agency goes months. That people want fireworks and action. It just we tell people every year, and we have to tell ourselves this. Season doesn't start till September. Don't worry about it. The cool thing is, no matter what they're going to do, they're going to get some compensatory picks. That's for sure. And because we're not, as we said on our Monday morning show, we're not expecting any big free agent deals from them. What you would call big. I know it's subjective sometimes, but we're not expecting any big money deals. Mm-hmm. So they're going to get some comp picks next year. And it really starts if you look at the losses / agreements, because you can't sign yet. On Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, they could sign. But Milton Williams got the bag, as we said, to start the show with New England. Now, what drove it up is very simple. The Cardinals, as we talked about, we kind of hinted on Monday morning show, look for Jonathan Gannon to get involved. Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, they're involved with both. Mm-hmm. I do wonder, though, I don't know if they would have signed both. I don't know if it's hard to know this, if one would have affected the other, but obviously Milton Williams is a better football player, and you got paid to be the better football player. So, but he went to the Patriots. They joined in. The Panthers were in on it. They had a lot of cap and cash. The Patriots had a Godzilla. I mean, dude, they had. I don't know what the most cap space in NFL history is. If it's not the Patriots, it had to be close. They needed to spend cash and cap, and they did. Though talking to them, yeah, they had some big free agent targets day one, but they didn't want to pull one of these, like as I mentioned, the previous show when Belichick went crazy one year. It was the Geno Smith year when Rosenhaus got to deal with it 5 minutes after free agency started.
Right.
They didn't want to sign 20 free agents. They want to sign 3 or 4 big ones who are young, by the way, not older guys. They want to re-sign some guys, and they did that. Good for them. But then there was Josh Sweat, the aforementioned Josh Sweat, went to the Cardinals to be reunited with Jonathan Gannon, and he'll be an edge rusher for them.
Adam, this is such a unique and rare story for Milton Williams. And the season can be so long, so it may feel like he's been a really good player for a long time. But 99% of the time, when Howie Roseman drafts a defensive lineman in the 3rd round who performs well, he's going to get an extension after year 3. But if you go back to this time last year and you're looking at Milton Williams, he's, starting 10 games for the first time in his career. His first 2 years, he only started 2 total games. And even in year 3, you're talking about a guy who had a half a sack, 3 tackles for a loss, and wasn't playing as much because he wasn't asked to, because they had Fletcher Cox, because they had Jalen Carter, because they had Jordan Davis, right? So he was doing he was doing what he was asked to do. He was basically doing what Moro Ajomo did this year. And as much as we talk about Moro being ready to take that next step, no one right now would give Moro Ajomo $26 million, right? So that's essentially how fast and how meteoric Milton Williams' rise was, because there's no way Howie would have thought at this time last year, why don't I give Milton Williams an extension to avoid his number going up? Because you didn't really know that you had what you were about to get. Sort of Zach Bonish. You just
well, actually, I'd say this though. They did know last year because he was really good. But to your point,
but I mean, like from a market value standpoint,
explosion, right. And they tried. By the way, they tried during the regular season.
That's what I'm saying. If they did, it probably was, not a contract that if you're Milton Williams, you're like, I'll just take a chance on being a starter, seeing what I do.
Great choice by him. I got to give him credit. I mean, he obviously he was going through it, so he knew. The Eagles knew this is. You know what? There's a saying in personnel. You know it when you're around it, when you see greatness. And when you've got a chance to make sure the greatness stays, you try, but you only have so much control over it. The Eagles did what they could, but they developed him, and he's a really good football player. We'll see. $26 million, because he's not what Patriots fans need to understand is he's an intangible player. The tape is phenomenal. It's been great since year one, but he just exploded his pressure rate. I know some people want to give Jalen Carter a lot of credit. That's fine. I mean, it's more subjective than anything. Yes, Jalen Carter gets double teamed more than anyone. Did you have to win? His pet, like if you go through the tape, Milton Williams going back even from his rookie season, because in fact, as a rookie, the limited time he got the tape was great. His pass rush win rate has been very good, but the pressure rate this year was just ridiculous.
It was,
and now we're going to see. And you made a great point to me. If Christian Barmore is healthy, and we know had the health issue last season, he's a really good football player. You put two really good football players at that position at inside defensive line together. That's a pretty good twosome right there. We'll see what happens with them. But he moves on as we fully expect that was going to happen.
Right.
I mentioned Josh Sweat. And this is one that's interesting because, yes, Jonathan Gannon knows him. He coached him for 2 years. And he obviously knows what he brings to the table. But he's another intangible guy. He's a really good run defender, high-effort guy. His effort was outstanding this season. Yes, he was on a contract drive, but he did everything the right way, really bounced back in a big way and got paid.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to get paid when he signs the contract. So it'll help Arizona. But the funny thing is they still don't have that. They don't have a number one edge rusher. They just don't. If you look at the roster, Zaven Collins is sort of a mixture of a player. They paid him, but he's not a great pass rusher. Baron Browning's back. He's been hurt a lot, but he's talented. It's sort of a pass rush by committee. The Cardinals don't have that number one pass rusher.
Right. They absolutely. The kid they drafted last year that you mentioned, they were hoping for some development, I would think, in year two. Missouri, the lineman.
Oh yeah, Darius Robinson got hurt. He had the calf injury. He barely played. He had a really bad calf injury.
Yeah.
But he's an interior defensive lineman. He's a first round pick, right? But again, they don't have an A-level pass rusher, and when you don't have one, you're looking for one. But Josh Sweat will help them. We all understand, kind of what he brings to the table. He turns 28 in a couple weeks at the end of the month. But you know what is interesting? He's been on IR twice, but it hasn't been for 5 years. For all the problems he had with that one leg, he hasn't missed a ton of time.
Right. All right. I want to talk about some other guys that walked out the door. Before we do that, you've been doing a great job, and we've been trying to update all of our great Patreon members through Discord. We're really dropping a lot of nuggets as the day, almost like a play-by-play. As soon as we get intel, we drop it on the Discord channel for our Patreon members. We want to welcome some new members. We have Phil, all the way from Ireland. He became a new member. So happy. We're happy to have Phil. We also had Keith come on. And so happy to have Keith. And there was somebody else who jumped in too, but they are reaping the benefits of being on Discord and getting your intel in live real time. And then, of course, we'll do an Ask ITB live stream Thursday at 7:30, and we'll really get into all these moves and more intel that we pick up. That's at you gotta become a member at patreon.com/InsideTheBirds. You will be the most informed Eagles fan out there. That's what our Patreon members always tell us. They say they feel a whole lot smarter. They know a lot more about the game, whether it's Greg Cosell, whether it's us, anything else. Pretty clear.
Yep. No, we appreciate it. Yeah, a lot of stuff we don't talk about here goes on there. Let's put it that way. Anyway,
there you go. So the surprises, and I think this is just showing you where the Eagles are at with all the money that they've spent last year in free agency and what they have to do from in-house extensions going forward. But Oren Burks and Isaiah Rodgers. Isaiah Rodgers signs with the Vikings, 2-year deal. Oren Burks signs with the Bengals, 2-year deal. His was
agreements, yes.
I'm sorry, yes, agreed to sign. My fault. Both modest contracts where you could say, well, you couldn't even do that, if you're the Eagles, but they clearly did not do that. They have other plans, and those are two guys who were a big, big part as backups of holding the fort down when they were asked to go in, who are going to be elsewhere next year.
Yeah, we'll see what the final numbers on Isaiah Rodgers is, what that looks like for him.
Mm-hmm.
As we've been reporting and saying, like 5 straight shows, he wants to go somewhere where he can start. Now, it's early in free agency. They haven't had the draft yet. Isaiah Rodgers signed there, as we understand, with the Vikings because he feels like he's probably going to start. Well, Stephon Gilmore's unsigned. He turns 35 in August. Byron Murphy, their best corner, he's unsigned. They think they're going to get him back, the Vikings, because it's slim pickets now for above average corners. It's just not great right now.
Mm-hmm.
But look, if Murphy resigns, Rodgers still should start. Now, if they surprise them and re-sign Stephon Gilmore now, then Isaiah might not be starting. But he went there for a reason, to have a chance to start. We know the Eagles had interest in re-signing him, as we understand. But bottom line, it's no harm, no foul. Good for him. Great story for him. And we're very early here. The Eagles have a big-time number 1 corner in Quinyon Mitchell. They've got Ringo. They've got Ricks. They're going to add someone else at corner at some point, either in free agency or the draft. So we got a long time, folks, till September. I don't worry about things like this.
Yeah,
because it's an obvious need. They know it. We know it. Fans who follow the team know it. They'll address it when the time comes.
Right. I have a little bone to pick with the report about Slay going to the Steelers. The information could be correct eventually, but if you're gonna, my take is if I was gonna report that, I would have to at least include somewhere in the post or tweet or whatever that he is still technically under contract with the Eagles until they release him. I know all these guys are just agreeing, but it's different. Most of these guys will have their contracts expire when 4:00 Wednesday kicks in.
Correct.
That's not necessarily the case with Slay, who is an Eagle until they decide to release him. They could post June 1st it, which is what apparently the plan is. But the point is, I would have added that context in because Slay is not this typical free agent to be like Milton Williams and Sweat were.
Yeah, he's actually, he's not a free agent. Yeah.
Right.
But for cap purposes, they had to wait anyway. Their plan is to cut him at 4 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. Now they're going to leave the door open for him to come back. But I know. Is it Jerry Dulac who's covered the Steelers for decades? He said it's not a done deal yet because they've given Slade permission to talk. I guess Joe Rosenhaus his agent, to take care of it. So, but it seems like it's a fait accompli that's going to happen. And again, from an Eagles perspective, they've got a hole there. But I find it interesting that, and I know the Steelers have an opening opposite Joey Porter Jr. Dante Jackson's going to sign elsewhere. And they don't really have very good depth at the position, but man, to sign a 34-year-old guy, I get Andy Weidl's there, and they're like 4 or 5 former Eagles front office people are there. But okay, this is what you want. You want an older player, okay?
Yeah, from what I understand, look, it's about having some locker room leaders, some tough guys. DK Metcalf has been a productive player. They need to get Pickens. They need to have somebody next to Pickens who's either just as good or maybe better or more productive to let him know, like, this is what it's like to be a pro. And I think that, Porter's been fine, been good for them, but he's still young. And if he's your best corner, who's going to challenge him? So,
Sure.
You bring Slay in, you bring in a guy who's made 6 Pro Bowls, won a Super Bowl, been to 2 Super Bowls, right? Has that leadership that he was a great leader for the Eagles. this past year. Well,
Oh
first
yeah.
year.
Oh, I don't doubt that. It's just that.
So you're right. It is a risk. But man, the Steelers have taken these risks before, right? With these older corners, and it seems to like Patrick Peterson and who was the guy before that? They took a risk on a guy that the Browns cut loose. Did all right with him. He wasn't as old, but they seem to do well on the retread corner market.
You know, I asked Greg Cosell on Monday because I asked him about that. He said, "You know what?" Because Greg made the point that he clearly lost a step in the regular season. He said, "You know what? He played really well in the playoffs." Now, and of course, Greg saw the tape, so we were not going to question it.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that we all know is James Bradbury lost it very quickly.
Yep.
That's why I brought that up. You worry about guys at a position where their legs are way gone by 32, 33, and now Slade just turned 34 in January.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens here. But yeah, it's always interesting. It was very interesting Monday because or really last weekend because all these guys are re-signed because as we told folks, if you didn't hear our shows over the weekend and on Monday, this is a very mediocre free agency. A lot of mid-level guys are going to get paid. They're going to get good deals, but there's a reason why they're out there. The reason why they're getting the market because it's just not a good year. And that's why a lot of teams wanted their own guys back who were good football players or not, who are young enough that could still contribute at a high level. And that's why a lot of teams now, as you'll start seeing in about a week, because they're going to be some free agents out there, but they're going to start looking towards the draft.
That's right. All right. The headliner now is really Mekhi Becton. What becomes of him? He is, of those major free agent names, still his fate yet still decided. The other guys are Kenny Gainwell, Paris Campbell, CJ Uzama, Fred Johnson. I mean, these guys, it may be a little bit for them.
Oh, by the way, were you thinking of the guy from the Browns was Joe Hayden? Is that who you're talking about?
Joe Hayden, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now he wasn't as old when they got him as Slay was, but he was a reach. My point was they've done well of picking up somebody else's like castaway. And
boy, was he good for Pittsburgh for a bit.
Was.
Yeah, when after Cleveland cut him.
Yeah, and Patrick Peterson had a nice little bounce back year.
A little bit, yeah, no doubt. So yeah, with Becton, it's kind of interesting in that I know a lot of people thought he'd get a deal right away. I don't think you and I were on that. We knew that, but he had a nice season. Great story, by the way, being able to play guard. But he wasn't going to be a high ticket item. That was not the case because of his injury history. He's young. As we mentioned, he could play inside, but it's hard because every team gets medical reports, and it's you kind of know that you can't commit big money to him. So he's out there. Fred Johnson's out there, who I'm sure Fred would love to start, but he's a really valuable backup. I do wonder with him if he's not signed within a week. I wonder if he comes back.
If he's not signed within a week, I would think that's a really good indication that the price tag just not there, and he could. But trying to think, have we thought that about other players? When Sam Aller was a free agent for a while, we knew the price tag wasn't going to be there, and he eventually signed with the Steelers. Right? It wasn't as much as he wanted, but it was still fairly decent price. But
good money.
Yeah, it was good money. Right. It was just that it wasn't all, if I remember, like it wasn't all guaranteed because of his injury history. Right. Yeah.
Well, that's why what happened was Pittsburgh almost always, the rare exceptions with Roethlisberger, they do 1 year, they do the big signing bonus 1 year fully guaranteed, and that's it.
Right.
And that's why I'm interested to see DK Metcalf's contract if they broke protocol. So we'll see. And by the way, yeah, I think we glossed over it. Just Burks, I know because you said to me in text, the one guy we didn't talk about who left or didn't talk about much is Burks leaving.
Mm-hmm. It
might have been timing because, a guy like Burks, quite frankly, it was a great story considering, they signed him to be a backup. He got pressed in the service, did a really good job, particularly late when he really had to play. The money that he agreed to that's been reported is not very much. And now some people are like, well, why couldn't they just offer the same thing? The Eagles are big in compensatory picks. Last year, by the way, signed on August 30th, like right before the season started. I think probably a lot of people forgot about that.
Yep.
They didn't want to pay very much. Whatever they do, if they do anything in free agency, there's going to be very little money at inside backer because they just brought Bond back. They're not tying up major money other than Bond inside backer. It's not happening.
Yeah. It also shows you their confidence level in Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Remember, Vic Fangio said, he said going into the playoffs, we might play both. He said Jeremiah's time could be now. So you got to think in year 2, another OTAs, another training camp, he'll be their number one guy to replace Nakobe if Nakobe's not ready to come back, and it'll be Bond and Trotter, and they'll probably add to this position. They'll probably sign a veteran for less than what the Bengals gave.
God, there are a lot of them. By the way, there are a lot of them. There are literally.
Well, you said that buyer's market. So you can understand why they'll just.
Yeah, they could wait.
Yeah, they'll give it 1 year. 600. Remember the old $600,000 guarantee?
Oh, that was great. Well, it was the 600,000.
It's for everybody that year.
20. Yeah, it was like 6. I remember us reading it. It was like they had like 6 players. I don't know why they did this. We should look into this. They gave everybody the same guarantee of these 1 year veteran minimums.
Right.
It's kind of funny.
Right.
But no, because there are a lot of mid-level guys. There's some actually, some guys who are not bad, who they started the career off well and then it kind of faded. So yeah, Burke. The one thing though, Burks is he's won a lot of games with Green Bay, the Niners, and the Eagles. You like the pedigree, you like the size, character. To have a guy over 6'3" who he moved pretty well. Where I know Greg said that he didn't move great early, he sure moved well late. That's too bad, but you know what? You can't keep everybody. It's again, there's so many guys out there. It's. Although I would tell you, if you look at the list that's out there, other than Zach Cunningham, I don't see him coming back. That would surprise me, because he's had so many injuries in his career, and he's also tall. By the way, he's another tall linebacker. But other than Zach Cunningham, looking at guys who have size, he's probably Zach Cunningham right now. I'm looking at the list that's out there. He's probably the tallest guy that's out there.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see. As the Eagles continue to make moves, we'll continue to do pods and go inside and give you all the intel that we've got on them. And a day one of more losses than gains for the Eagles. However, a big gain for Tanner McKee, as it was made clear it is time for him to be QB2 for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.